How many of you guys have watched Squid Games? Netflix? Okay. Since I can't see you in person, I want you guys to put any emoji that comes to your mind when you think of Squid Game series in the comment box. For me, it is that Korean sugar cookie, dalgona. So make sure to put your comments, okay? Don't simply put anything. I want you to put something that is meaningfully related to Squid Games. Let's see. Let's make others wonder what is happening in this video. Anyways, no, those of you who have watched Squid Games or know something about it, you remember how in the beginning every player was just trying to survive on their own, correct? But as the game progressed, what happened? They realized that teaming up, forming alliances, thinking strategically, these are the things that gave them a better chance of survival. And why I said all this is because we have a lesson to learn from all of this. What is that lesson? That is our Unit 10, collective bargaining. I know this term is very familiar to you guys. Since the first unit onwards, we have been talking about collective bargaining, collective bargaining. Let us look a little bit deeper into this. Okay, what is collective bargaining? Instead of employees negotiating individually, which often leads to unequal power dynamics, if they come together, say usually through a trade union or something like that, to negotiate with their employer as a collective force, then that is collective bargaining. Collective means what? Collection, right? Collection of people. So a collection of people coming together and bargaining for what all of them want. Just like the players in Squid Game, how they began to recognize that about their mutual dependence, employees and management also depend on each other. And collective bargaining provides a structured, peaceful, and fair way to work out differences. Thankfully, in HRM, there are no deadly games. Like in Squid Games, we don't have any deadly games, thank God, but we just have negotiations, agreements, and maybe some heated arguments, right? So, in Unit 10, we will be unpacking what collective bargaining really means, why it matters, how it works, and the juicy power games behind the scenes between trade unions and management. And no drama series can beat that real life action of this process. Now, before we proceed any further, a quick notice. Please kindly check whether you've already subscribed to Anu's Classroom or not. If you have not, consider subscribing because it will help me make more videos. Now, to begin with, what exactly is collective bargaining? You can think of it as a formal give and take between the management and the employees, which is employees are usually represented by this trade unions. So instead of each employee walking into the HR's cabin with demands, which will be total chaos, collective bargaining brings in a certain order. So it is a process where each party or both sides negotiate wages, working conditions, hours, things like that. And they hopefully walk away with an agreement which doesn't lead to more strikes or mass resignations. Talking about the structure and the process of this beast of collective bargaining, it is not just a one size fits all deal. The structure of collective bargaining depends on the industry, the size, um, sometimes even the mood of the stakeholders that are involved. So we usually see bargaining happening at various levels, from the plant level, sometimes to the national level. There is collective bargaining happening. Sometimes it is one employer and one union, like a single employer bargaining. Other times it could be one union negotiating with a whole bunch of employers. So that is multi-employer bargaining. Now, the process itself includes two very key areas. That is substan- substantive rules, which deal with the actual terms like the wages and the working conditions, mm, leave policies, procedural rules, and all, which are about how negotiations should be done, like how to handle disputes or deadlocks. And then, yeah, so substantive is the wages and conditions, and then there is the procedure. That is how the talk happens, the rules of the negotiation. Okay. So now let us quickly look at the step-by-step process. If let's say we are asked to list down the step-by-step process of collective bargaining, how can we answer that? Let us quickly look at it. This is the stepwise process of collective bargaining. Things start from preparation and ends with administration of agreement. So preparation, both sides will gather the data. They will form teams and they will plan their strategy. Then, once they have prepared, they will present their demands. The union will submit a list of employee demands to the employer. And then comes the actual process of negotiation. Both party will sit together, they will discuss and try to reach a what you can say, a mutually acceptable agreement. And then once they have reached that agreement or a settlement, what will happen? A formal agreement will be drafted. Once this negotiation is completed and that they have reached a consensus, they will draft a formal agreement. That is the fourth step. And once that is done, the agreed terms and conditions will get put into effect. That is, the implementation of the agreement will start. And um, both sides, once it is in place, both sides have to ensure that the agreement is followed so that there are no more issues in the future. Whatever was agreed upon has to be, their end of the bargain has to be kept by both the employer and the employees. So those are the six steps of collective bargaining. So if a question comes to give us asking you to give a step by step process, you can write this down. There are various types of collective bargaining as well. Okay, let us look at the different types of collective bargaining. First, we have economic bargaining. What is economic bargaining? This is what most people imagine. When you talk about bargaining in an organizational setup or negotiation, the first thing that comes to our mind is salary, benefits, work hours. That is economic bargaining. Then we also have political bargaining. This goes beyond the workplace and it touches on wider labor issues and policies. Integrative bargaining is like the feel good type of bargaining where both the sides try to win. It is a win-win negotiation, like splitting a pizza in a way that no one fights over the last slice. On the other hand, distributive bargaining is like a tug of war. One side's gain will become the other side's loss. Integrating Integrative bargaining is a win-win situation. Distributing Distributive bargaining is a win-lose situation. One person's gain means other person's loss. And based on the number of players that are involved, we might have single employer bargaining. If it is like one union bargaining with one employer, it is single employer bargaining. If a single union is bargaining with n number of employers, multiple employers, it is multi-employer bargaining. Now, behind all these bargaining, collective bargaining talks and the types, we have some very cool theories which explain how this whole process works. Okay, we have first we have the Walton and McCarthy model, which is quite popular. It breaks the process of bargaining into four parts. We will first look at Walton and McCarthy model. What are the four parts of collective bargaining according to Walton and McCarthy? It is first is distributive bargaining. Second is integrative bargaining. Third is attitudinal structuring. And fourth part is intra-organizational bargaining. Intra-organizational bargaining. These are the four parts of collective bargaining according to Walton and McCarthy's model. Distributive bargaining, Bargaining, like I said earlier, also distributive bargaining is a win lose situation. One party's gain is other party's loss, like salary negotiation. One part, if the workers union gets their demand done, that means the organization gets more costs. If organization's demands win, means workers are going to get less pay. It's a win-lose situation. Integrative bargaining, it is a win-win situation. Both parties win. So the focus here is on finding solutions that benefit both the sides, like work-life balance policies and all. Such kind of bargaining build trust and cooperation and also encourages creativity and problem solving. Attitudinal structuring manages trust and relationship dynamics between parties. Intra-organizational bargaining addresses internal conflicts within each side. So also, we have other models also like economic model, psychological, institutional, game theory models and all. Let us look at these models also a little bit in depth. Other models of collective bargaining, they use economics, they use psychological, and they use institutional theory also to explain this whole bargaining behavior. Like for example, let us take the game theory. That is another model which tries to explain game collective bargaining. So let us look at collective bargaining from the game theory perspective. So according to this theory, when we look at collective bargaining through the lens of game theory, you can think of each party as a player. Okay, they tries to maximize their own benefit, like higher wages for the employees, lower costs for the employers. But just like in a game of chess, it's not enough that you have a strategy, you also need to anticipate the other person's move also, right? Like that only. In game theory also, each party tries to maximize their own benefit, but at the same time they anticipate the other's moves. So concepts like Nash equilibrium helps us explain why both sides may settle on a compromise at some point, even if it is not their ideal outcome. So it reveals how cooperation or even conflict can impact the final agreements that are reached after collective bargaining. So these are some of the most important models that you need to be aware of: Walton and McKinsey and game theory. Now, what are the functions that collective bargaining serve? So first and foremost, collective bargaining acts as a rule-making machine. It helps to decide what's fair and what is acceptable in the workplace. Also, it works as a mini judiciary. It works as a mini judiciary. How does it act as a mini judiciary? By settling disagreements over contracts. It also acts like an executive body by ensuring whatever is written in the agreement is actually followed. And apart from this, it helps to determine as well as standardize compensation. It prioritizes both parties' interests. It redesigns how negotiations are done. And even when and it helps to even the controls market competition to some extent. And we cannot forget about how good a tool collective bargaining is for resolving conflicts without anyone throwing a resignation letters around. Right. So these are some of the functions of collective bargaining. Helps making rules, dispute resolution, implementing of agreements, settling and setting and standardizing of pay, managing conflicts, even control market competition. Now, talking about the nature of collective bargaining. What is the nature of collective bargaining? It is all about group representation. It is all about group representation. No individual heroism over here in collective bargaining. Everything happens through elected representative. It is a voluntary process also. Both sides choose to come to the table because they know they need each other. And it is bipartite. Why? because it is not simply management or union, but rather it is management and union. There will not be any outsiders like government agencies or anything like that unless the things really blow up. If the things blow up outside, I mean, if the things blow up beyond the control of the management and the union, only then it becomes tripartite. Otherwise, it is generally bipartite, these collective bargaining stuff. So that is why it is bipartite, and it's not a one-time event. It is dynamic. It evolves over time. Collective bargaining evolves over time. It adjusts to new conditions, new generations of workers, and sometimes even managements with new ideas. So, the content of collective bargaining can cover a lot of things, starting from economic issues like salary, bonuses, and leave, to more managerial topics like promotions, promotion policies, transfers, or performance criteria. So it is flexible enough to be adapted at the site or at the department level. Some agreements are deep and complex, but others are short and sweet. The heart of the matter is that both sides have to come. They have to come with a shared purpose. The union representing the collective interests of the workers, and the management willing to recognize and engage with that structure. Now, finally, let us look at the key elements that make collective bargaining work. First is the group dynamics, because it is not solo play. The word itself has collective in it. Then it is ongoing and adaptable. It is continuous. It is not a one time activity. It creates workplace rules. Fourth and fifth is that it determines and standardizes compensation. And when we have setting priorities also, updating negotiation methods, and even market control, like removing salary wars among employers. Of course, it all leads to a formal agreement that both sides promises to follow, right? That is coming to a formal agreement without, hopefully, without crossing fingers behind their backs. Hopefully, they will follow through their side of the agreement. So, in essence, collective bargaining is not just about demanding a raise or threatening to strike, but we can say that it is a very powerful democratic process which shapes how organizations function, how fair workplaces are, and how industrial peace is maintained. Understanding this topic is not only prepares you for exams, but it will also help you as future HR professionals, because trust me, one day you might be sitting across that table negotiating with a fiery union leader, and you will need every bit of all this knowledge. That is it for this unit. Until I see you in the next one, thank you so much. Happy learning. Bye bye.